Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bleav in San Diego Baseball, the podcast. I'm your host, Alex Miniak, the voice of Petco Park, alongside the man on the mound. He's the three-time All-Star Heath Bell. Heath, it's great to have you back here on this Thursday. We got a few things on our agenda. You know, tomorrow is National Video Game Day, so we're going to have a little fun talking our favorite baseball video games over the years, and we'll preview the Colorado series coming up this weekend. This time at Petco Park, so different ground rules apply, and it should be a much different series, hopefully, with the same outcome, or maybe a sweep. That would be nice. But I want to start off with a couple of milestones. Last week, Luis Arraez had his 1,000th hit. That's hard to believe that he's already had 1,000 hits, and something to definitely celebrate. You know, I love Luis. Dude makes contact. He's top 1% in strikeout rate. Some call that extreme. I call it elite in terms of bat-to-ball skills. I love the guy. I know there's a little bit of a knock on, he can't play defense. Yeah, he doesn't hit for power. Look, we know he's not a five-tool guy, but he does something, and he does something really, really well, and it contributes to this team.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old school guys, the guys that I kind of played against or before my time. You had guys that didn't have power. They just made contact and they got on base and they created havoc and stuff like that. And they weren't always the best defenders. They were pretty solid, but they weren't like the gold glovers. And their gold glove was, making contact and making pitchers frustrated. You make a perfect pitch and they foul it off 100 times. So he's one of those stinky hitters, and I think, just in today's day and age, everybody wants to hit the ball out. So Arraez kind of seems different just because he's kind of an old school kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I are kind of old school baseball guys, and he's a three-time batting champion for a reason. He hits, he gets on base. I don't know, to quote Brad Pitt in Moneyball, when I point to you, he gets on base, and that's all that is. And, I was trying to think of a comparison, at least, when it comes to criticism, or at least trying to take everything that's bad about a guy as opposed to finding something that's good about a guy. And I thought about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, I went to Florida. I am a Tim Tebow lover and evangelist. I think he's one of the greatest yeah, that's great. He's one of the greatest football players to ever play the game. He could be a top 5 or top 10 college football player ever. And all the pundits for all the years were always pointing out what he could not do. And nobody ever focused on what he could do. And you know what? Like Arraez gets hits, Tebow got touchdowns. What's wrong with that? I've always learned when you find somebody who has a strength, you double down on the strength, and you don't worry about the weaknesses. And I think with Luis Arraez, I think that's very similar. He's got elite skill. Maybe it's just one skill, but that skill is elite. He's at the top 1% again in strikeout rate. I mean, that's a guy I want on my team, and he's a great teammate. But, I mean, that's really a guy I want on my team.
Yeah, well, Tim Tebow and Arraez are, somewhat similar but different. But it's the aspect, if you're not like everybody else, people want to knock you down if you win. And Tim Tebow wins, and he he maybe not always throw the touchdown, but the team would always get a win. And it was like, well, okay, well, he didn't do it the way you're supposed to do it. Like, Arraez doesn't really hit a bunch of home runs. He's not super fast, but he's won 3 batting titles. And it's like, well, wait a second. You got to hit more home runs to win a batting title nowadays. No, it's about hitting the highest average. And that's why they knock those guys down, because it's not the norm. I mean, if Arraez played 15, 20 years ago, nobody would be talking about all these negative things, because he would be with a bunch of other, guys that got on base, and just like he's more of an elite, hitter. This year he's having a down year, but they would be promoting how good he is. And it's just the way it is. Just like Tim Tebow, if he played football probably 30 years ago, they wouldn't have said all this negative stuff. They would have probably said, man, he's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, he always got up with the blood on his jersey and everything, and those were the guys that we watched back in the day, and the bruisers, Yeah, I love the guy. I'm glad he's on our team. He contributes. He hits, sometimes multiple times in a game. I think the last stat I saw last night said that he was second in multi-hit games this year. So, I mean, the dude contributes. He gets on base. He makes contact. He frustrates pitchers. I don't, if you don't like him, I don't know what you don't like about him, because all that works for me. The
He's too
second thing that
short.
works, yeah, the second thing that works for me is the Immaculate Inning versus Baltimore for Mason Miller. And if you don't know what the Immaculate Inning is, it's recording 3 consecutive strikeouts on 9 consecutive pitches. So 9 strikes, 3 strikeouts. He didn't even do it with his fastball. You would think he would just blow heat by the guys, 100, 102, 103. No, he did it with 9 straight sliders on top of that. So, I don't, thinking back, I don't recall that I've ever seen an Immaculate Inning in person. Maybe it happened in the minors and I just don't recall, but not in the majors. And this is only the second Padre to do it. Brian Lawrence did it in 2002. And it's only the 118th ever. And that is a very rare feat. I mean, there's 326 no-hitters in the history of Major League Baseball. And half of those, comparatively speaking, only half that number for Immaculate Innings. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Immaculate Inning is pretty. It's kind of like our no-hitter or perfect game for a reliever. So many times you go out there and you might strike the first guy out or the second guy, or somebody's going to foul the ball off somehow. And, there are numerous times that I think I threw 10, 11 pitches and struck the side out because guys fouled it off. It wasn't because I threw a ball. Or, occasionally late in the game, an umpire back in the day before kind of the strike zone and, Quest Tech and on TV seeing it and this and that before they rated everybody. Some hitters were almost given, we're not going to call strike 3 on you if it's a borderline call. So sometimes you had to throw another pitch. But I think it's a reliever's perfect game, no-hitter, to go out there and throw 9 pitches and get 3 Ks.
I've seen a combined no-hitter, which I know is rarer than your standard no-hitter. Have you ever been
I don't
part
like
of a
combined hitters.
You don't like them? Were you ever a part of one at all?
Minor leagues a couple times, but no,
Yeah.
not in the big leagues.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those as someone at the minor league level. I still have only seen one no-hitter in person, and that was at the minor league level. Kyle Drabeck did it in New Hampshire. I actually have the bobblehead from that moment over here. See, this is him with his little scoreboard there. But yeah, son of Doug, he did it on July 4th. It was an hour and 57-minute game. I even bought a jersey from that game, and I was working that game. So it was cool. Just a little story there. But great accomplishments from Luis and Mason, and glad they are on our Padres as we cruise towards the postseason here. Now, tomorrow is National Video Game Day, Heath. Heath, you and I have played plenty of video games. I'm still in a video game. I'm in MLB The Show, one of the PA announcers in the game.
I'm still in that game too.
Yeah, it's my 7th release of MLB The Show. You can actually play me as a create-a-player character, which is kind of cool. I try to just create this old skinny dude that somehow hits for power and hits the top of the Western Metal Building with these little skinny arms that I've got here. But it's fun, and I don't have as much time as I used to play video games. I love playing video games, and I just don't have time as much anymore to sit in front of the console because you and I are recording a podcast. It's taken away from my video game time, Heath. But back when we were kids, I had an NES. I had a couple of baseball games. My favorite was Bases Loaded. I'll tell you why, but I want to hear what yours were. What did you play a lot?
Well, at the arcade, I always played RBI Baseball, but I think RBI Baseball and Baseball Stars. Baseball Stars was like the first you could create your own team and you could make their own names and whatnot. But I used to have stats with RBI Baseball with my own personal stats. This guy get a hit this day, this, that. The only reason I think I don't play as much anymore is because when we played video games, you couldn't save it. You had
that's
to
true.
Yeah, hour or something. Now my kid plays a video game, puts it, you can come back 2 days later or an hour later and finish the game in the same level, same spot. And I think it's called cheating. We had to sit there beginning to the end.
Yeah. Well, we had hot Florida summers for that, so we had plenty of time to be playing video games because it was 95 and you'd step outside and your skin would peel off. It was so hot. And so I spent a lot of those summers playing video games, and Bases Loaded was our house's game. My dad loved baseball. That was one we played together. I know, like you said, a lot of people played RBI and had real players, and real stats. And I don't know. It just didn't, to me, the look of RBI baseball wasn't great. It seemed like everybody was fat. Like every player that walked up to the mound or walked up to the plate was 500 pounds. Like they were Babe Ruth, even though it could have been, I don't know, a 5'8" guy weighing $120.
Well, the pixel wasn't very good. Your game came later.
Yeah.
So everybody got a little skinnier. Pictures got better.
Yeah, that's true too.
The technology got better.
It did get better. But what I really liked about Bases Loaded is that it had a TV-style presentation. It was like the first game that showed the camera from center field like you would see it on TV today. And this is 1987. And the camera would switch sides depending on if it was a right-handed batter or a lefty. It talked. It had a cool scoreboard. It had cool scoreboard animations. It had teams and places that didn't have teams. Like I remember saying to my dad, "No way, Miami will ever get a baseball team." And Miami was a team in that game. And I also liked that the umpires were listed on the scoreboard all the time as Yuck, Dumb, Boo, and Bum. They had their initials on the scoreboards, and those were YUK, DUM, BOO, and BUM. And I just thought it was funny. But I just like the realism of you could pitch, and you could say what speed, what location, and the glove would match, and you could direct the pitch into the glove. Sometimes the fielding was a little quirky, but it talked. It told you, if you were out, it was a strike, if you were safe, I just thought it was cool, and it was 2 players, so my dad and I could play, which was fun. But I don't think I ever got another baseball game for any of the other consoles that I had. I had an N64, I had an Atari Jaguar, Game Boy. I don't think I ever. I had the Mattel one when I was a kid, the little handheld one before the NES. But that was it, and I think when I had an Xbox 360, I had one of the 2K MLB games, and I clearly remember how glitchy that was. I think I had 2008 or 2009, and the center fielder would actually run through the wall to make the catch. He would disappear into the batter's eye and then come out with the ball, which was interesting.
Yeah, I got a little story for you. So I got called up with the Mets in 04 and in 05 spring training. I'm on the video game. I don't know if it was 2K or what it was, MLB. So I went and got it, and I think I had the Sega's version of Game Boy, whatever that was, and couldn't figure out how to put myself in. I forget who was starting, so he started the game, and as soon as the game started, I put myself in, and I pitched the whole game, and I sucked, and I was like, man, I can't throw the ball hard. I ended up getting 2 hits. I was having fun because I'm playing myself on a video game. And then one of my teammates, I told him what to do and what I did, this and that. And he was like, well, did you start yourself? And I'm like, I don't know how to start myself because, I just brought him in as soon as the game started before the first pitcher, they went, did you warm yourself up? I'm like, you're supposed to warm up? Because I came with the era of you just put a guy in,
Yeah.
And then I warmed myself up the next day, and I was like, man, I'm so much better. So I had no idea I had to warm up. So, I mean, it's kind of realistic. And for me, I just like A, B, up, down, left, right, and, start and select. And that's about it. I don't like all those other buttons. I'm just old school.
Now, people ask me, what is it like to voice a video game? And in my case, it's very different than any project I've ever worked in my life. When you read copy, they're generally in sentences and paragraphs and things like that. And when you record parts for a video game, you read names. I'd go through last names, Bell, Buckeye, whatever. Go through all the B's, go through all the C's, then go through the first names. And so you're constantly creating parts to assemble sentences as opposed to reading the sentences. So when you come up to bat, what you're really hearing is now batting for the blank, number blank, the position blank, first name, last name. So it could be like 6 or 7 different parts. And while you're reading all those parts, you have to read them all the same way. So that the sentence sounds right. So in your mind, you're like, this shouldn't. You're taught as a broadcaster to vary your delivery, vary your cadence, make it sound natural. And this is the most unnatural thing you've ever done. You think it's totally wrong because you're going through and you're reading everything the same way for hours. And so you wonder if anybody's even listening at that point. Have you bored everybody that's in the room recording you? But that's kind of the story from my end. I would love to know an athlete's perspective on playing as yourself in a game. Like, I remember stories of football players getting mad because they weren't a 99 in Madden. You obviously felt bad that you didn't have a great outing the first time you played yourself. You had to figure out how to warm up.
Yeah, the thing is, some years, all of a sudden, I had new pitches. I had a split finger, or, I had a slider and a curveball where I didn't throw a slider my whole career. So it was almost like whatever the tech guy doing it thinks that's what I pitch, then that's what I had. And sometimes, I remember one year I had 5 different pitches, and I'm like, I throw 2.
Heath Darvish.
3. But I'm like, wow, I have so many pitches. I think some guys get upset that their power numbers, this and that. Maybe those are the guys that play all the time. I just think it's tickle pink. I'm on a video game, and kids down the road, my grandkids are going to see me on a video game, because if I wasn't on the current one, like one of those diamond players that or the past, future players or whatever they're called, past players.
Legends.
They legends. If I wasn't one of those diamond legend players, then my young kids or my grandkids would never know that what Grandpa did.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to make a note next time I'm at Sony. Put Heath Bell in as legend character. Okay, I got some pull there. I'll see what I can do for you.
I was on there a couple years ago. Because my son told me all of a sudden I was on, and I haven't played it in a couple of years, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're not a character in there, if I can bring my skinny arms up to bat and hit 99 power.
Well, here's the thing is, I don't know if they'd have me hit anymore because pitchers don't hit. Maybe I can have a Bananas jersey. So.
There you go. You would definitely be a Bananas legend after the show you put on at Petco last week. Well, speaking of Petco Park, Colorado is back. I know it feels like we just saw them, but they are back. We're going to have a little preview of that series coming up. Once again, if you have not followed us, do so on all the podcast mediums, the Apple Podcasts, the Spotify, the iHeart. We're all over them. It's Bleav, Bleav, in San Diego baseball. We're going to take a quick break. Heath and I will be right back next on Bleav in San Diego baseball. Welcome back to Bleav in San Diego baseball, the podcast. My name is Alex Miniak, alongside the 3-time All-Star. His name is Heath Bell. Heath, back at Petco this weekend with the Colorado Rockies. We just saw them last weekend at Coors, but this ain't no Coors. We were able to win the series at Coors. Now we're back home cooking. What do you expect out of the boys this weekend at Petco Park?
Well, at the end of the day, I want them to win the series, but I'd love to see a sweep. We play great at home. We don't play that well on the road. So I expect the boys to do really well and take care of business this weekend.
Yeah, and I think some home cooking would do us some good. Settle in, get some W's. Again, still being in the hunt for the division. Every game matters in September. Got through the dog days of August. Here we are, postseason, mere weeks away, days away, if you want to say it. So, yeah, every win counts. I would love the SWEEP. I'm not going to say it out loud. I don't want to jinx it, but I will spell it. And yeah, that would be a great weekend for me at Petco to end the homestand. Coming off the Reds, sweeping the Rockies, that would be fantastic. And again, we don't have to worry about Coors and all the arcade rules of Coors. We're doing it in our own backyard, and I would love to see that victory for sure. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't think we need to say anything else. Just win, baby. Al Davis said it best, right?
Yeah, just win, and who knows? There might be a new first place by the end of the series.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Well, for Heath Bell, my name is Alex Miniak. Don't forget to catch us and vote. Vote for our Friar Fave online, the Friar Fave Award, the fan favorite, BLEAVINSD.com. Catch our fan poll, vote, because in just a couple weeks, we're going to be awarding our first award, the Golden Foam Finger, to our fan favorite, the Friar Fave Award. Again, for Heath Bell, the three-time All-Star and former Padre, my name is Alex Miniak. We will catch you next week, right back here on Bleav in San Diego Baseball.